Okay, you're thrust into the limelight as a 17-year-old on Britain's Got Talent. How old do you think you were when you realised you had that voice?
What if the voice that stopped the world came from a boy who couldn't even speak up for himself? At 17, Jonathan Antoine walked on stage with messy hair, trembling hands, and zero confidence. Seconds later, he broke the internet. But behind that voice, behind the viral moment, was a lifetime of silent battles, brutal bullying, an undiagnosed condition, and a secret he kept for nearly 3 decades. Jonathan Antoine's life has been nothing short of extraordinary, a journey marked by pain, brilliance, and resilience. Born on January 13th, 1995 in Chigwell, Essex, his early life seemed ordinary on the surface. But internally, Jonathan was grappling with a reality far more difficult. From as young as 4 years old, he was relentlessly bullied for his weight and appearance. Children threw food at him in school, while teachers would often find him crying alone. His world felt isolating, but amidst the torment, he showed signs of a rare and powerful gift: his voice. By age 6, Jonathan had perfect pitch, a phenomenon found in only about 1 in 10,000 people. While his musical talent was astonishing, it went unnoticed for years. He would hum intricate melodies to soothe himself, and according to his mother, Julie, he composed full songs silently in his mind during some of his lowest moments. Even as he displayed signs of depression at just 8 years old, no one realized that his mind was wired differently. Doctors would later explain that Jonathan showed traits of musical savant syndrome, an extremely rare condition linked to extraordinary auditory memory and ability. As his mental and emotional struggles deepened, so did his challenges with weight. By the age of 5, he was already significantly overweight, turning to food as his primary source of comfort. At 10 years old, he weighed 154 pounds, and by 15, he tipped the scale at 298 pounds. Despite his mother's efforts, including mortgaging their house twice to afford therapy, Jonathan's trauma-induced hyperphagia, a condition that causes extreme overeating in response to psychological stress, continued to shape his life. Everything began to shift when he was 10, and a substitute music teacher named Mrs. Williams held a choir audition. Reluctant and trying to remain unnoticed, Jonathan sang, and the room fell silent in awe. His voice, resonant, powerful, and mature, sounded more like a seasoned tenor than a child. Mrs. Williams described it as Pavarotti trapped in a child's body. From then on, Jonathan's extraordinary vocal ability could no longer be ignored. He quickly began performing solos and impressed audiences with his natural vibrato, dynamic control, and a vocal power measurable at 95 decibels, enough to fill a concert hall without a microphone. At 15, he entered the Stratford and East London Music Festival, weighing nearly 300 pounds and standing just over 5 feet tall. Competing against over 40 trained vocalists, Jonathan chose to sing Nessun Dorma, and by the final note, he had brought the packed hall of 2,000 people to their feet. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes, and a judge awarded him the highest score in the festival's history. That victory earned him not only accolades, but also admission to the junior program at the Royal Academy of Music, one of only 23 chosen from nearly 3,000 applicants. Jonathan's weekend became intense training sessions, 6 hours of vocal technique, for hours of theory, and additional hours of stage performance coaching. Despite being ignored by peers at first due to his appearance, he soon rose to prominence, becoming the youngest ever to play the lead in the magic flute at the Academy. Still, the emotional scars of bullying and anxiety didn't vanish. Jonathan remained shy, plagued by self-doubt, and often suffered panic attacks. His path would change forever in 2011, when his high school music teacher Jenny Ewington paired him with 16-year-old Charlotte Jaconelli, a confident performer with a love for the spotlight. Charlotte's strength balanced Jonathan's quiet intensity. Together, they sang the prayer in front of a small audience, and the moment was electric. Their voices fused perfectly, his tenor ranging from C3 to C5, hers from C4 to C6, creating a harmony that seemed fated. As they performed locally at churches, weddings, and small venues, they built a growing fan base. By April 2012, they were earning up to £300 per show with 40 venues on a wait list. It was Charlotte who pushed them to audition for Britain's Got Talent, BGT. Jonathan was hesitant, terrified of being ridiculed on national TV. Only after Charlotte insisted and submitted their application, at the last possible moment, did he agree to appear. Their audition, filmed on April 28, 2012, became one of the most iconic in television history. Dressed casually, clearly anxious, Jonathan faced cruel skepticism from Judge Simon Cowell, who made a disparaging remark before he even sang. But when Jonathan opened his mouth to sing the prayer, everything changed. The audience rose to their feet, people cried, and Simon was left speechless. All 4 judges said yes. Within days, the performance had gone viral, racking up millions of views online. Jonathan's journey from a bullied teen to international sensation had begun, but success came with its own pressures. During the semifinals, anxiety nearly overwhelmed him. Before performances, he had to calm himself with breathing techniques just to stay grounded. Yet his voice never failed him. When Simon Cowell later suggested Jonathan go solo and leave Charlotte behind, he refused, declaring that they came as a duo and would remain one. That integrity earned him admiration from around the world. Although they did win the show, losing to a dancing dog act, Pudsey, their popularity skyrocketed. Simon Cowell signed them to a record deal reportedly worth £1 million. Their debut album together charted in the UK Top 10, followed by Perhaps Love in 2013. But creative tensions began to mount. Jonathan gravitated towards serious opera. Charlotte leaned into musical theater. Their vision began to diverge, and by early 2014, they amicably split. Jonathan didn't jump into solo stardom right away. He took time to heal, uncertain if it could succeed without Charlotte's steadying presence. But he eventually returned with a bang. His 2014 solo debut, Tenore, featured classical opera pieces and reached number 1 on the UK classical chart and number 13 on the pop chart. At just 19, he was the youngest tenor to top the classical charts. Soon, legendary tenor Placido Domingo invited him to perform at the iTunes Festival, a true sign of industry respect. In 2020, Jonathan released Going the Distance, a deeply personal concept album produced by Grammy winner Greg Field, featuring the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. It took 3 years to complete and debuted on PBS as a concert special. At 25, Jonathan had truly arrived as a mature artist. He continued evolving, and in 2024, he collaborated with songwriting legend Diane Warren on By Request, the Diane Warren Songbook Volume 1. Yet behind his public success, Jonathan continued to face private battles. He had struggled with anxiety, emotional exhaustion, and deep confusion for years. In late 2022, just after his 27th birthday, he received a life-changing diagnosis: autism. It was a shock to his inner circle, but for Jonathan, it brought clarity. Finally, his lifelong struggles with emotions, social anxiety, and overstimulation had an explanation. He revealed his diagnosis in a 2023 Australian interview and posted about it for World Autism Awareness Day. For 28 years, he had felt like he was navigating the world in the dark. Now, he had a name for his experience. Jonathan didn't keep this revelation to himself. He used his platform to advocate for autism awareness and mental health, participating in campaigns like Classic FM's Make Some Noise and becoming a patron of pediatric brain tumor research. On social media, he shared what autism felt like daily, not with slogans, but with vulnerability. His personal transformation extended to his physical health. He had struggled with obesity since early childhood, reaching 280 pounds during BGT. But he eventually lost over 70 pounds and kept it off, thanks in part to discovering an undiagnosed thyroid issue. Managing that condition finally made weight loss achievable. He committed to walking 10,000 steps a day, missing only 2 days since beginning the routine in 2020. This daily practice became his way to reclaim control over his body and mind. Amidst these life changes, Jonathan also found love. He met Canadian waitress Michelle Dussy online during a period when he was emotionally lost. Their relationship blossomed, giving him the emotional support he needed. Michelle inspired his 2016 album Believe, and their bond became public when they attended a film premiere together. She wasn't just a partner. She was a source of strength during some of his most transformative years. Though fans often hope for a reunion, Jonathan and Charlotte's friendship faded with time. In a 2017 interview, Jonathan explained they no longer spoke. Their musical paths had diverged irreversibly, and the split had been final. But both found their own forms of success, and Jonathan continued to flourish creatively and personally. In 2023, it was announced that a documentary on Jonathan's life was in development, tentatively titled Beyond the High Sea. Directed by David J. Baird, the film promises to delve into the emotional depth behind Jonathan's rise, from childhood bullying to his discovery on BGT and finally to his late autism diagnosis. It will offer fans a more intimate look at the boy behind the voice. Today, Jonathan Antoine is more than just a teen with a golden voice who stunned the world. He is a successful solo artist, an advocate for neurodiversity, and a figure of resilience. With a net worth of over $4 million, millions of YouTube views, and chart-topping albums, he continues to inspire. But perhaps his greatest achievement isn't musical. It's the courage he's shown, on stage and off, to live his truth and help others find theirs. Even with all his success, Jonathan Antoine has remained grounded, more humble artist than celebrity. Unlike many overnight sensations, he resisted the temptation to chase commercial fame at the expense of artistic integrity. Throughout his journey, he consistently returned to classical music, the genre that had first given him a sense of purpose. He often spoke about how opera felt like home, how it allowed him to express emotions he could never put into words. For Jonathan, singing wasn't just a performance, it was survival. His live performances have been celebrated for their emotional intensity. Audiences describe a kind of stillness that settles over the room when he sings, a rare connection between artist and listener. Critics often remark not just on his technical ability, but on his sincerity. It is as if, for a few moments, Jonathan becomes a conduit for something bigger than himself. That emotional authenticity has become his signature, setting him apart in an industry that often prizes flash over feeling. Part of what makes Jonathan so captivating is the tension between his vulnerability and his strength. He has always been open about his fears, of rejection, of judgment, of not being enough. But by continuing to sing through those fears, he's shown immense courage. And it's that vulnerability, not perfection, that has made people fall in love with him time and time again. After his autism diagnosis, Jonathan's message shifted. He began using his voice not just to sing, but to speak out for others who felt unseen or misunderstood. He posted about the sensory overload he experiences in crowds, how interviews leave him emotionally drained, and why he sometimes needs to retreat after performances to recalibrate. He also shared that before learning he was autistic, he often felt broken, like something was wrong with him. The diagnosis didn't solve everything, but it gave him a framework for understanding himself and building a life that worked for his needs, not against them. He started working more closely with neurodivergent charities and mental health organizations, becoming a spokesperson not for a polished image, but for truth. Fans began reaching out, not just to praise his music, but to thank him for making them feel less alone. Parents of autistic children sent him letters. Teenagers wrote that his story gave them hope. He became more than a performer. He became a role model. Jonathan's personal growth has continued in recent years. He now speaks publicly with more confidence, more ease. The shy boy who once trembled before stepping on stage is now comfortable sharing his story in interviews and live panels. His relationship with his body, his voice, and his emotions has evolved. Rather than fighting who he has started to embrace it all. The sensitivity, the introversion, the intense passion. He once said in an interview, "You can't sing with a guarded heart. The best notes come when you're open, even if it hurts." He has also become more involved in shaping his own career. Earlier in his journey, others often made decisions for him. Producers, teachers, industry executives. But now, Jonathan plays a central role in crafting his albums, choosing his repertoire, and deciding how to engage with fans. He's taken on creative risks, exploring fusion works that blend classical opera with cinematic or pop elements. His 2020 album, Going the Distance, marked a turning point. It wasn't just a collection of songs. It was a narrative arc reflecting the triumphs and pain of his personal journey. From the dark loneliness of his youth to the soaring hope of self-acceptance, the album was praised for its ambition and vulnerability. Jonathan has also been working on original compositions, quietly experimenting with writing his own material. While he's primarily known for performing others' masterpieces, he has started composing pieces that blend orchestral richness with intimate storytelling. Friends close to him say these new works reveal even deeper layers of who he is, what he survived, what he's dreaming, and how he's healing. Though his connection with former duet partner Charlotte Jaconelli has faded over time, Jonathan has never spoken ill of her. He's acknowledged the importance of their partnership and credits her with helping him step into the public eye when he didn't believe in himself. Their story remains one of the most beloved chapters in BGT history, and even though their lives have diverged, they are forever linked in the hearts of fans. Jonathan's current relationships reflect a sense of balance and stability that once seemed out of reach. His long-term relationship with Michelle Ducey continues to be a pillar of strength. She not only understands the demands of his career, but also the complexity of his emotional world. Friends describe their relationship as quiet, loving, and deeply supportive. Michelle often travels with him, helps manage his schedule, and serves as a sounding board for creative decisions. Jonathan has credited her with helping him see the light when everything felt heavy. His story is not just one of talent. It's one of transformation, of a child who sang to survive, and a man who now sings to heal. And perhaps the most powerful note of Jonathan's journey is this: his greatest performances are not behind him, but still to come. If Jonathan's journey moved you, share your thoughts below. We'd love to hear them. And if you want more untold stories behind the voices you thought you knew, hit subscribe. There's so much more coming. Jonathan didn't chase the spotlight. He earned it note by note, step by step. And somehow, through it all, he still found a way to turn pain into performance.